Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of Ghostly Stories brought to you by Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio. I'm doing this tonight because my guest that's usually on the regular Monday night show had to cancel. He had things come up, and that happens. So we're going to do a special little, this is a personal story sent to me by a good friend, and it's kind of unique. Do a special little, this is a personal story sent to, yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. It does that if I don't jump over there and pause that. Anyway, hopefully I'll have someone shortly that can come on and talk with me and kind of help out a little bit with this, but I'll do the best that I can solo. This is called The Boy in the Basement. My parents bought a house in a small village when I was just 2 years old. Coming from the city, this house was great. There were woods across the street we could play in and a creek just on the other side of the woods. There was also a big backyard. Life was great. Mom kept me confined to the backyard until I was old enough to go to school. We spent the summer outside and the winter inside, and there was a full basement to play in. One day we got some Hot Wheel cars to play with. I took a piece of chalk downstairs to draw roads for my new cars. So I was surprised then one of the cars just moved by itself. Being a child, I thought it was cool. I told my mom about it, and she said I was imagining it. Been there, done that. So the next day I went down to play to the playroom and saw all the cars had moved and some were missing. I looked for them and couldn't find them, so I just played with what I had. I accepted things the way it was, and for a long time I played with an invisible person until one day I asked who I was playing with and why I couldn't see them. Then there was a little hand on one of the cars, then a smiling face. I thought it was so cool. I asked him if he could play outside with me during the summer. I didn't hear any answer, and yes, he did join me outside during the summer. We played cars for years. Mom just put it down as an imaginary friend. I grew up and moved out. I would come back to visit Mom, and to my surprise, she told me that my imaginary friend downstairs was making a lot of noise. So having a young child of my own, I took one of his Hot Wheel cars and put it downstairs. The next time I saw Mom, she asked what I did. He's been quiet. I told her, and that was that. A few years later, I moved back to take care of Mom in her later years. I told my son about the boy in the basement, and he would go down and play with him. One day, my son told me he saw the boy, and he described him to me. And I said I never saw him in his entirety, but I had seen most of him. And what he described was the same boy. I bought the house off my mother, and me and my son moved in. I continued to take care of Mom until the day she passed. I have done research on the house, and the house was built in 1955. The man who built it lived in it, and my mom bought the house off of him. They didn't have any children when they lived in the house. My mother was the only person to pass away in the house. So I had no idea where the boy downstairs came from. One day I had a friend look into where the boy came from. She told me He had died east of the house and just liked it there. And he could come and go as he wished, and his name was Eddie. He passed when he was about 7 or 8 years old. My mom and my mother didn't, my son and my mother didn't get along, partly because she couldn't remember who he was. So my son decided to move his bedroom downstairs in one of the unused rooms. He would tell Eddie would play with his radio and move things on him. I told him, well, if you leave cars out for him to play with, he won't bother your stuff. So he put cars out for Eddie, and Eddie left his things alone. One day, my friend Mary came over, and we went downstairs with a recorder and a PSB-7 spirit box. And when she turned it on, we got a very loud Jewish sermon. She couldn't turn it off, nor could she turn it down. When the sermon was finished, the PSB-7 went back to operating as normal. After that, we didn't get much, but it was exciting. Eddie still comes and goes, but he is still around, and I always make sure he has toys to play with. That's very commendable of you. The fun of doing things by yourself. Well, I talked to Mary a little bit, and hope you don't mind. And she brought up something that was very interesting about a little boy named Eddie who passed. And she thinks that this might be the same little boy. Can't remember word for word. Okay, give me just a second here. Okay, can't remember word for word what all we said, but it's like a little boy named Eddie who was a family member who had passed, like a brother. I don't know if that's so or not, but if it is, that would be pretty cool, I think. That, in fact, that would be awesome. Imaginary friends, that's what, you know, a lot of parents will assume that if there is their child brings up something about seeing a ghost or an entity or whatever, a little girl, little boy, and they've been playing with this little girl, little boy, etc., etc. A lot of the time, they won't want to recognize that it could actually be the spirit of a little boy, little girl who passed away there or nearby or whatever. They automatically just assume, well, you know, you got lonely, so you made up a little friend. And not always are these imaginary friends nice. And not always, I don't believe, are these imaginary little boy and girl friends actually little boy or girl. But that's for another story. Actually, the one we're talking about tonight seems to be an actual spirit of a little boy who's lonely, I guess, and likes hanging out there because he has someone to play with. Now, your son, who plays with the little boy, and since you're not on here with me, I'm going to have to go over here where you are. And he passed away when we lived in the city north here. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. How old is your son now? Does he still play with the little boy? Is he like a lot older? Because I'm wondering if your son were to, if he's not, if he was to get married and say they had a little boy or a little girl and they come to the house, if Eddie would play with their children. And I'm sure he probably would, because he isn't going to age. He's always going to be little Eddie. But you see where I'm going with this, right? I mean, Eddie is always going to be little Eddie, however old he is, still a child. And any other children that come there, that go down there, he's going to probably play with them just like he did with you and just like he did with your son. And that would probably continue on for years and years and years and years, you know, for an eternity, because he's not going anywhere, obviously, and he's not going to get any older. So, actually, that's something that, you know, you hear stories and like, yeah, you know, that's something you can pass down to your grandchildren. Well, this is something you can actually participate in with your grandchildren, not just tell them about it, but, you know, they could actually go down there and play with Eddie and be like, oh, wow, you were right, you know. There is a little boy in the basement. Why do children or spirits, just spirits in general, now it was said he passed away east of there. East of there, where was it? In an open field? Was it in another house? Was it in some kind of other building? At what time or year did he pass away there? Why do spirits go where people live? Like, say, if you have you could have a house and say there's a field 2 miles away that somebody died in. If their spirit was around there, it would go to the nearest house where people live. Why? Because I think they get lonely just like, you know, living people do. Now, some of them are cantankerous. They like to play tricks. They like to hide things, move things, knock things over, throw things across the room if they get mad. And yeah, they get mad just like anybody else. It would be interesting to know why they do that. Why would they go to the nearest house? Or do they actually get lonely like the living do? You know, and even grown up spirits that were grown up when they passed still like to play and have fun. They have a sense of humor. So, you know, I can't say that they would be in the basement playing with Hot Wheel cars. That'd be kind of a little bit on the funny side, but as far as knocking things over, hiding your stuff like your car keys or, you know, something like that, your phone, your cell phone, I could see that happening, and it'd be all like a joke to them, you know, making you have to hunt for it and look all around everything. And then when you are about to lose your mind, think you're not ever going to find them, they'll put them right back in the same place where they was, you know, or nearby, somewhere where you'll see them right away. They're just playing, you know. If you had a recorder running and you just say you could leave a recorder running like 24/7, you might be surprised if you got a little ghostly laughter when they hid your keys or your cell phone or something like that, and you're hunting all around for it, and they're going, ah, ah, pointing at you. Yeah, look what they're doing. You can't find it. Um, just saying, they like to have fun. But which, how do I word this? Um, if you had like two or three houses that might be around this area where they passed away at, which house would they go to? Or would they go to a house where the people that lived there were like not really outgoing, kind of keep to themselves, don't want to talk to other people, don't like nobody coming around, stuff like, or would they go to a house where you had laughter and kids playing and, and everything was all nice and, you know, uh, happy relationship, you know what I'm saying? I would tend to think unless they were, and even if they were like butt heads, um, if they were real butt heads, they might go to a place where the people were standoffish and didn't like to talk to people because they feel like, well, I'll fit right in here. Whereas if they were, just your everyday spirits who just want to be around people, they might go to the house where the kids are playing and laughing and everything's all hunky dory. A lot of things to think about when it comes to spirits, and we don't always, we don't always think about how, Grant Wilson said it on Ghost Hunters, spirits are just people who have passed. Okay. And you've heard the saying, if you're an a-hole when you're alive, you're going to be an a-hole when you're dead. That's probably true. I pretty much believe that's probably true. But, if you're not, and if I think especially if you um, were an elderly person and say you lost your wife or husband, a few years before you pass, and you're lonesome and you just want to be around people and hear laughter and all that stuff, you're going to go to a place that's you probably wouldn't want to hang out where you passed at because there's nothing there for you anymore. So you're probably going to want to go to a place where there's children playing and laughing and there's a happy family. Mom makes dinner, they all sit at the table and crack jokes while they're eating. You kind of get where I'm going with this. Have seen on video a little girl in our house. Yeah, and we talked about that. Um, Things disappear and turn up in strange places. That's kind of what I'm getting at. They're just playing. They mean well. Um, I think, like I said, especially with children, I would think that they would be lonesome. They want to be around other kids to play and have fun because, heck, when you're a kid and you're alive and everything, that's what you want to do is play and have fun. Why would you want to do that afterwards? Why would you not want to go somewhere where there's another kid to play with or kids, etc. Um, it's not always when a person passes, and if a child, um, and I'm not sure on this one because I haven't run across it, but um, if a child died in a tragic accident, or if a child was murdered, or whatever reason it wasn't a pleasant death experience, they might tend to stay wherever they were killed at because they don't know any different. That they go, and I would hate to think that they would, but they might be like they're just living through this over and over and over again, and you wish there was some way you could put a stop to that. Uh, if you couldn't cross them over, maybe you could uh, send them to a house where there's a happy little kid they could go play with and be like sort of like a normal childhood that they're living, you know, even though they're deceased. Man, you can get into some of this stuff and you just don't really know what to say because it's sad and it's you I don't know if you guys were seeing me. I had the chat room pulled up, and I don't know what you see when I'm over there. So uh, I don't know if you still see this picture or if you see the chat room window. But anyway, um, it's very, very touching to me. I love children. I have six. I have 13 grandkids, and I'm only 57. So yeah. Anyway, um, when a child is mistreated, it makes me very, very angry. I don't care who done it. If the child's mother did it, my daughter did it, or whatever, or you know the father did it, or whatever, it ticks me the hell off. Just to put it lightly. So if I knew where a child had been uh, either murdered or died of a tragic death or something, and I could go there and help them, then you know nothing else would matter. That's where I would be. Uh, I think that's more important than anything. You know, is a child that has been through hell already don't need to be living in it. They need to go on to where they can be happy. So you know, as an investigator and as a person who cares about not only the clients that I would deal with, but also the spirits that I would deal with. Um, I look at my job as a two-sided job. I'm there to help the clients to have peace in their house, and I'm also there to help the spirits to find happiness, if that's possible. You know, to cross over to be with their loved ones, to you know, not be stuck there anymore. If it's a child, it's twice as important to me. But then you got to be really, really careful because not only do demonic entities like to take the form of a child, but also just evil a-hole entities, you know, will present themselves in a way to fool you, to get at you. Okay, the weaker link is the one they go for every time. Um, so you have to be really careful, but you know, when it comes to a child, you're going to go to a child, and that's what they know, and that's why they use that. They know, especially if it's a female, and it's a female that has children, they go for that motherly instinct because it's natural for you to want to reach out to a child. So that's you know, to anybody that's listening that's involved in the paranormal that has children, remember that. If I'm sure most of you've heard it, but if you haven't, always keep that in the back of your head. Um, I don't know how you would go about proving whether or not, or you know, in your mind, how you would go about knowing for sure if you were actually dealing with a child entity or if you were dealing with one of the others that I mentioned. There would seem like there would be some way you would be able to know. And if somebody has figured that one out, please let me know because I ain't figured that one out yet myself. Um, Eddie, to me, is happy where he is and what he's doing. If a spirit and the living are willing to coexist together in a situation like that, where uh, everybody can get along together, and you know, the child can be happy and have somebody to play with. And as I said earlier, he's not going to get any older, but you know, yourself, your kids, your grandkids, their grandkids, anybody that ever comes into that home that goes to the basement could probably play with Eddie, and he'd still be just as happy as all get out. You see what I'm saying? Um, in a case like that, I don't know whether I would push for them to cross over so much or not if they're happy. In the cases where there's really bad tragedy and they're suffering and everything, yes, I push for that with everything I got, you know, to help them find a better place. Like I said, doing this solo, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to continue for the whole hour or not. I'll go as long as I can, as long as I can make sense. Um, I would like to know if the person that got the information, that told you the information, uh, oh, that's great, good. I'm happy that y'all do. The person that got you the information on the fact that Eddie passed away east of there, see if it's possible to find out where exactly that was and what was there, if it was a house or a uh, open field house, you know, some kind of factory building, whatever it was. I'd just be interested to know uh, how he died and what was there. And that might also give you an indication why he would leave there and come to your house. So that would be some really interesting information. Well, I was hoping there'd be more people in here by now, get some more ideas from people, see what they thought about all that. But anyway, uh, back over here. Oh, just quit that. While I'm over here, this is the chat room window where I'm at right now. What do y'all see? Do you see like the big picture of me, or do you see just like the little YouTube video window like you watch normally? It was an open field, okay. Do you know what happened? Do you know how he died? If it was an open field, you know, it could have been any number of things. Uh, oh, so were they like, if they were heading west, was this like during the covered wagon times? Maybe he uh, was sick or something and passed away from an illness or something like that, and they had to bury him, leave him behind. Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm not paused in the window. What you see? Yes, I'm paused in the window, or yes, they were in a covered wagon. We kind of went on two different trips here. Okay, so anyway, and no, I wouldn't push for him to cross over if he's happy. You know, as long as he's happy, let him be happy. I mean, obviously, he didn't get to have a childhood, so maybe he's having his childhood now. That's kind of like, oh, okay. It's kind of like, you know, get up, it's time to go to school. No, I don't want to go to school. You know, I'd rather be here at home. You know, why would you want to stay somewhere or be somewhere you don't want to be when you can be somewhere where you have fun, you know? Um, when it comes to spirits, you know, there's a lot of different types, in my opinion. You know, you got your ones like Eddie, who are just a child, happy to probably have somebody to play with and or have a place to live where he feels comfortable. You know, obviously he's welcome there and he knows it, and that probably makes him feel good. And y'all are probably like the family that he doesn't have anymore. So yeah, I can see that. Um, I don't think that even all child spirits are nice and good. I think some of them are little heathens, just like they were when they were alive. Kind of like I say about the spirits that were a-holes when they were living, and they were a-holes after their kid was a-hole brat when they were living, and they passed away. They're probably going to be an a-hole brat in the afterlife. Uh, that doesn't mean that you don't care about them. It just means that you have to be more careful because they're not going to be, you know, all smiles and laughter. Unless they're laughing at something they did to you, they might laugh about that. And we have two dogs. Now, see, that's cool too. Um, the dogs obviously aren't afraid of him, you know, and if the kids that she's babysitting, if they go downstairs to play, they're probably playing with Eddie too. Now, if they go home and tell their mom, "Hey, I was downstairs playing with a little invisible boy named Eddie," would they think, "Well, yeah, you know, you just made up a little friend?" Or if you told them, "Well, yeah, there really is a little boy down there named Eddie, a spirit or whatever," they might not want those kids to come back no more. Um, was he possibly buried where the basement is now? Well, she said he passed away east of there, so I doubt that. Good question though. Um, it's a fact during the Western days when the covered wagons would all head west or whatever. Whenever a person in the wagon train passed away, they would bury them on the side of the road, and you know they would put rocks on the grave, and that's how they, you know, that's how they did it. So you know, we don't possibly know where there's graves at. You know, because even though they were marked back then, maybe with a wooden cross or something tied together, that's probably was long gone. You know, um, if development came along and you know, built something there, it might be built on top of one of those graves. Now, if, by him being saying that he passed away east of there, I'm sure it's not him, but I'm just saying there's cases where that probably happened a lot. And I think it's sad that they couldn't, you know, because they knew that it would take a long time to reach where they were going, and there's no way they could keep a body that long. They had to get them back then. They had to get them in the ground as quick as possible because of the heat and all that stuff, and there was no way to keep a body. So they got buried along the side of the road. Um, or if they were close to an open field, they might go out in the field and bury them out there, you know. But it was pretty much like that. And I would think a lot of child spirits that were buried like that, you know, and left behind because they, you know, their parents didn't have a choice, that they would be lonely and they would reach out to someone, whoever, you know, had a house close by where they were buried. Just seemed natural to me. I mean, that's what I think I would do if I was a child spirit that was buried out in a field or along the side of a road that used to be. I would want to go and hang out somewhere where, you know, there was somebody to play with and have fun with. No, he wasn't. It was about 5 or 10 miles away. Okay. Uh, oh, okay. So it's no big deal about that. Okay, I see. Well, that's good. Anyway, um, as I said, you know, if you were buried along the side of the road or out in a field somewhere back then, and you know you were left behind, you would want to go where there was somebody, a nice family, maybe, you know, that you wanted to be around, that maybe had a child close to your age or something, you know, that you could play with and stuff like that. I would want to do that. You know, if I was a child spirit, I would want to do that. Um, if, on the other hand, you were a little heathen, and we all know what that's like the ones that throw the temper tantrums in Walmart, knock stuff off the shelves, and lay on the floor and kick and act like little butt heads. They might act like that when they pass too. You know, if they weren't, and I'm not saying this to put anybody down, but I'm saying, um, if I would have done something like that, I wouldn't have been able to sit down for a month. I think a lot of the problem is the discipline nowadays is not like it used to be. And children are allowed to get by with that stuff. And when they get by with it, they think it's okay and they continue to do so. Um, you get by with it when you're alive, you probably think, well, you know, hey, I can get by with it now too, you know. Throw a little temper tantrum, you know. Uh, Stuff goes flying across the room when it doesn't look like anything touched it, you know, or something might get thrown at you, or you know, just any kind of stuff like that. Um, and I don't know why when Mary was telling me about this story, Eddie Munster popped into my head. You know, I can picture the little Eddie looking like Eddie Munster with the hair line, you know, like that. But you know, and I'm not saying Eddie's a monster, but just saying that popped into my head, Eddie Munster. So, what would you like to see happen in the future with this? exactly. And that's the way I was with mine when they were growing up. You want to act like a little fool, I'll treat you like one. You gonna throw a little fit, I'll give you something to throw a fit about. As that saying goes, and my grandfather used to do it to me. When somebody asked me one time, have you ever heard that expression, stop that crying before I give you something to cry about? Yes, I heard that a bunch of times when I was growing up. But yeah, I mean, and I would do that today with one of my grandkids if they did that, and I wouldn't care who saw me. What are you gonna do? Go turn me in. What are you gonna do? They need discipline and they're gonna get it, or they're gonna wind up like some of you people. The ones that all scoff about it, like, oh, you shouldn't whoop your kids. Make them go stand in the corner. Right. They're probably standing over in the corner looking at you out of the corner of their eye going, yeah, you just wait till you turn your back. You don't discipline them, they're going to act like little hellions, I promise you. But that ain't here nor there. Has nothing to do with the story at hand, but it could if it would have been another kid. So again, I say, what would you like to see happen in the future with Eddie? I mean, would you like to, you know, continue to have kids that come and play with Eddie and stuff, or what? I mean, I guess it could go on indefinitely. As long as there was kids there for them to play with. Is that something that you would like to see happen, or? Well, no idea. He's been welcome here. Well, I mean, you kind of like adopt him, right? Like he's one of your own. In which case, you'd want him to continue to have uh, children to play with, to be happy, to have toys to play with, to I guess always have that space that could be his. And of course, things change over time, and just saying when you're no longer here and say your son inherits the house and they decide to change the basement around and do something else with it, would that interfere with how he does? Would he still come and hang out there, or what? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that would all work, and I don't claim to understand all that. Of course, that's the true sign of an investigator. You never learn everything. I don't care how long you do this stuff. There's always something you can learn. When it comes to child spirits, there's a lot I could learn. I wish I could go visit him. I really do. I wish I could come there and just sit and talk with him. I think that'd be pretty cool. He might like that, he might not, but never know. Cool. Awesome. I really will. I wish I could do that. And Tom there, I'm sure he'd come with me and we'd just have a hangout session. And I'm sure he always would, no matter how you arranged it. He would still have his space there. Um, where is there exactly? Okay. Ohio. Okay. My brother lived in St. Mary's for a while, one time. St. Mary's, Ohio. Get a lot of snow and stuff up there, don't you? Bad winter. Anyway, yeah, that's what I figured. He used to tell us about how bad the snow and stuff was up there. He moved up there to work at Goodyear for a while and then moved back home, back to old Tennessee. If everyone is happy, just go on as you are, and in years he will deal with future owners. That's true. That is very true. And I guess that's as it should be, you know. I guess in a way, if things changed like that, he would basically, although he's never going to be older, he would have to basically, I guess, grow up and move on, or do whatever it is that you have to do. Then again, he may always be there, you know, until the day of reckoning comes, I guess, when we're all not here anymore. But anyway, I pushed this thing for pretty close to an hour, and I think it's about time to shut it down because I don't really know any more to say about Eddie. He just seems like he's a great kid, even though he's an afterlife kid. I would love to come and talk with him, and who knows, maybe one of these days before I. And of course, once I get on the other side, I could just fly up there and see him, you know, and we could have a ghostly chat. But uh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm glad that I could bring your story on and everything for people to hear because I think it's very interesting. It was a lot of fun, and I will be back Wednesday night with another ghostly story, and Friday night, of course. And then we'll see what happens after that because I don't have anything necessarily lined up for Monday yet, but may possibly be able to get the guest that was supposed to be here tonight to come next Monday or something. We'll see. But I appreciate it, Meg. That was a great story. Tom, thanks for coming. And we're going to shut this thing down. And I appreciate everybody that wasn't in the chat room that's listening in that prefers not to chat. Um, thanks a lot for coming, you guys. We couldn't do these shows without you people to come and listen. So, and of course, I know Meg just comes because I got this handsome face, but you know how it is. Anyway, I appreciate it. Good night, everybody.